Gosh, wrestling can be really, really dumb, like when Joey Ryan hip-tossed someone using only his penis. But wrestlers take a lot of pride in their craft. Makes sense, they are professionals, but there's something about wrestling that makes wrestlers very defensive about it when they talk to the press. Maybe it's all the physical risks they take, maybe it's because there's a lot of honor, duty, codes of conduct in the industry, maybe it's because some wrestlers are two giant slices of fruitcake mental. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are 7 times wrestlers went nuts on reporters. Number 7, Baby Slim attacks Michael Moody. Baby Slim sounds like an adorable soul, but no, turns out absolutely no. Michael Moody was a filmmaker helming a documentary called 101 Reasons Not to Be a Pro Wrestler, compiling shoot interviews with Rikishi, China, DDP, and of course the Right Honourable Mr. Slim. Babies are prone to tantrums after all, and perceiving the documentary to show wrestlers in a bad light, Slim goes about proving that all wrestlers are very reasonable people by punching Moody in the head and chasing him through a car park. Unfortunately, it ranks low on the list because, turns out, the confrontation was staged to promote the film. Sure as hell looked real though. Number 6, Randy Orton gets intense with a Mexican reporter. Randy Orton has a bit of a temper problem in the same way that the Titanic had a bit of an iceberg problem. He's been known to flip out on Kofi Kingston, flip out on Mr. Kennedy, and flip out on a Divas gym bag backstage filling it with baby oil. We'll go into that another time. Needless to say, when you're up against Angry Randy, and let's just call him Rangry, then you better have a civil tongue in your head. When a Mexican reporter, L. Furby, made the mistake of bringing up Orton's shoulder injuries and calling the Viper fragile, Randy took the glasses off his head and told him to say it again to his face. I mean, L. Furby had already said it to his face, but then Orton started shouting, "Look at me! Look at me! Look at me!" whilst L. Furby was looking directly at him, albeit without his glasses. Orton then storms off. Now, this could have been a work, as Randy was heel champ at the time, but knowing what we know about his temper, it's very possibly not. Number 5, CM Punk gets awkward with Michael Landsberg. Now, this happened after CM Punk had quit being a wrestler, but hey, it's my list. If you don't like it, you can do one. Off the Record with Michael Landsberg was the longest-running sports talk show on Canadian TV. Quite the accolade, until it ended late last year. Landsberg has a bit of a history with making UFC fighters cross, with Chael Sonnen once storming off the show, and this time, it's Punk's turn. The interview began with Landsberg airing a comedy video about Punk still not having a UFC opponent, lols, which you could tell got Punk already a little CM grumpy. Slowly but surely, the interview descends into an awkward confrontation between the two men, with Punk lambasting Landsberg for being two-faced, trying to act like hot shit. Landsberg fires back, telling him it's unprofessional to drink coffee during the interview. It's cringeworthy. It's not the most explosive attack of personalities, but it's definitely real with all the awkwardness and clumsy insults that comes with that. Number 4, Hulk Hogan chokes out Richard Belzer. Lots of people question the Hulkster's wrestling chops, and hey, just because the leg drop looks about as effective as a tickle attack or blowing on your opponent really hard, doesn't mean he can't put a motherfucker to sleep. To build up excitement before WrestleMania 1, Hogan and Mr. T went on Hot Properties, hosted by Richard Belzer. Belzer had been a very slight bit of a douche in the interview, patronising wrestling for being low art, which made Mr. T visibly cross. Then Belzer made the mistake of asking Hogan to show him a move. Oh dear. Hulk slaps Belzer in a front chinlock, or a guillotine choke, and because Hogan's got the thickest pythons in the world, brother, the tall drink of water Belzer quickly loses consciousness. When Hogan lets him go, he falls backwards, splitting his head open on the hard floor. He sued WWE for a large undisclosed sum. Number 3, Vince gets intense with Bob Costas. Reporters sure do love to make everyone aware they think wrestling's dumb. Give Bob Costas some credit at least. He had the grapefruits to call wrestling vulgar right to Vince McMahon's face, and Vince McMahon is the most insane man in the history of time. After all, he ranks a perfect 10 on the Gary Busey scale of intimidating lunacy. In 2001, in an interview with On The Record on HBO, the tension, sexual or otherwise, between the two men got all sorts of bad. Costas had spent a while ragging on the XFL, and that got Vince mad, and the tone between the two men rapidly becomes uncivil. As the interview moves into how classless WWF is, and how it might be responsible for a child accidentally killing another child with a wrestling maneuver, Vince leans right forward in his chair, starts looming over Costas, telling him, "You don't know what you're talking about." For most of the interview, he has a smile on his face, but murder in his eyes. Now, this was 15 years ago. If Vince McMahon, as he is now, got in my face like that, I would shatter into 1,000 shards of glass like the panty waist that I am. Number 2, Vader goes nuts on Kuwaiti presenter. Vader is a scary dude, a 450-pound meatball of rage and bafflingly good moonsaults. When his eye popped out of his socket in a match with Stan Hansen, Vader popped it back into its socket and finished the damn match. That's the crazy go-nuts man we're dealing with. With that being said, it was a bad idea for a reporter on Good Morning Kuwait to call wrestling not real. Vader stood up, flipped the coffee table in front of him, and grabbed the presenter by the tie and said, "Does that fucking feel fake?" Vader was arrested afterwards, charged with assault, and spent 10 days under house arrest, and all this happened with The Undertaker watching the incident. He didn't move once or even take off his shades. American badass indeed. And number 1, David Schultz makes an example of John Stossel. As scary as that was for the Kuwaiti show host, he got off lightly compared to John Stossel. For an episode of 2020 about the legitimacy of professional wrestling, Stossel got backstage at a WWF show. Now, rumor has it, he was irritating Vince McMahon. You know, the lunatic who had a word with David Schultz telling him to make an example of Stossel. Now, whether that part actually happened is up in the air. What isn't is what happened during the interview. And you know what? I won't describe it. Just play it. Now, speaking as a scrawny wrestling commentator, I would just like to make the following statement. Wrestling is not fake. Wrestling has never been fake. David Schultz is a very handsome and virile lover. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.